Well, we got a guest here. We're going to give her some good time here. She's been a co-host here on What's Going On. She's been a guest. We'd like to welcome back to the show of What's Going On, Miss Fitzgerald-Baker.
Let's say it like this. Tanisha Fitzgerald Baker.
That's it. That's what
There
they
you
call
go.
me.
Yeah, all right, rock and roll. Welcome to What's Going On.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah,
It's
all right.
always nice to be among friends.
Yeah, tell us what you've been doing lately with that podcast. I
Hey.
want to do one so bad, but you know
I'm
what?
telling you.
I was
You
telling them
need to
about
do
the Beck got Wi-Fi, and somebody come to my house won't know if I had Wi-Fi. I told him David Andrews already did my wiring. I don't know about Brian. I don't know nothing about
We have got to work on bringing you up to the times. Yes, so you can reach more people. But I am enjoying the podcast. In fact, this past Monday, so I do a new show. It comes out every Monday.
Okay.
I did my 162nd show.
Congratulations.
I've never repeated a show, and so every week, every Monday, 162 Mondays, I have produced a
Wow.
episode of Talking with T. So we're real proud of that.
Talking with T.
Talking with T.
Come on
That's
with your
right.
bad self.
Yeah.
So, how did you get started in doing the podcast?
Well, I believe people notice that I like to talk,
Mm-hmm.
but
That's always a good
that
thing.
was a good thing, and so you never know when your talent will serve you well somewhere. But actually, Joe Armstrong, we chatted about starting a talk show or coming on the radio, and finally I said, I'm gonna put this on my bucket list, and this is something I'd like to explore. And so I went on WJBE in 2015. Alongside Mr. Mentor, who's been a mentor for me. And I appreciate that. I want to make sure that I acknowledge that. I appreciate all that you've done to guide me through engaging audiences. But so I started in WJBE, was on there for about a year. And then some things happened. They did some restructuring. And they said, well, my days were done. And I thought, oh, it can't be over already.
Yeah, right.
And I
I thank you right now
Yes,
for
ma'am.
giving a plug in to Robert. Robert has done a lot for people.
Oh, well.
He never takes the credit, and people don't give him the credit that he deserves. I've known him for a long time, and I know this show is not about you, Robert, but I come every now and then, so I have to say what I have to say.
Go on with your
when
bad. I ain't
get a
gonna bother you. I ain't
chance.
gonna bother
But
you.
you've been a big blessing to the community here. And I know you grew up with my husband, so we go way back.
Right.
And ever since I've known you, you've been doing good. You've been doing something good.
Well, thank you.
And that's a blessing. And we hope the Lord keep you around here a long time so you can keep on keeping on.
All right. Yeah, we're gonna have to turn it over to somebody though one day.
Yeah, we can know now.
But
Yeah, so so from the radio, I didn't want it to quite end, and started exploring podcasts, and started small, little SoundCloud, and learned how to record and produce my own shows. And I
Okay.
thought, well, what's the next step? So went from SoundCloud to TuneIn Radio, Blueberry, and I thought, well, what's the biggest one out there?
Okay.
And that was iHeart. So I guess it was about a year ago that we landed a spot there on iHeartRadio. So right now you can listen on SoundCloud, which is where I started. So I always give them credit and always direct people there because that's where I started. But
Okay.
there, TuneIn Radio, I'm on iTunes. If you have an Android, you can listen Google Music or just iHeartRadio. Pretty much any internet radio station or platform that hosts a podcast, you can find Talking with T. And if all else fails, just go to the website, and that's www.talkingwitht.com. Keep it simple. And from there, you have the links to all the stations, but it also plays on my website. So if
Okay.
you don't want to go through subscribing or downloading any of those other platforms, you can just go to the website and listen that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what type of show is it?
Well, I would say that it's more of a variety show. What I like to think is that we engage and educate and empower our audiences through conversation and information. And so what I do each week is kind of browse the news, keep my ears to the ground, and see what are some important issues, what are things going on, what are people talking about. And from that, we build a show around that. So it's not just myself. I've been fortunate to have some people join the journey with me.
Okay.
I have local, Pam Campbell. And then out of Memphis, I have Jay Lawrence. And then I have a guy out of New Jersey His name is Lincoln. So different people with different viewpoints
Wow.
makes it a little spicy at times because we have our own style, but the chemistry is great.
Okay.
And so we pretty much hit trending news, hot topics. I'm starting to build a pretty good bank of new music because I feature rising artists. And so first it was local, but now I'm getting music from all over the country. So I'm happy to highlight and spotlight these new and rising artists because they want to be heard. And so that's a great addition to the show as well. And then some interviews.
And how do the new artists, about contacting you?
Yes, they contact me. Sometimes when I go in my inbox, I'll have a song in there that they may want me to listen to. Sometimes people will send me
Is it
several
songs that
songs.
they've written, or
Yes, they
songs
have to, for me, they have to own the rights to the song.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and so
This is all kind of music.
all kind of music.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
The music.
You
Well,
bringing in the
The new
artists.
artists, well, when I was on the radio, you're covered and you can pretty much play any song you want to.
Right.
Well, once I went off to the podcast, I still wanted music, but I couldn't afford to pay
Have to
the
pay
cost,
for it.
right, to cover the use of the radios or songs that you may hear on mainstream radio.
Right.
And so I just
Tell
kind
us a
of,
little bit about that. Now, I hear people on different talk shows and programs on TV, and they can only play just a little bit because they say, stop it, because we'll have to pay for
30
that.
seconds. But that's not even guaranteed. Depends on how far that person wants to go to pursue the rights to their music. So I thought I'd better be safe because
I never did understand
my
it all,
pockets
but
won't
thank
allow
you.
me to pay
And I really
anybody.
want to do
Yes,
that.
yes.
Okay.
But I do, and so it started with that, with me looking for opportunities to play music without having it to be really expensive. But also, there are a lot of rising artists
Okay.
that are really looking to have their music heard, and so it's beneficial. It's a two-way street there for me to put their music out there, and of course, once you start doing that, I don't have to search. I used to have to search for it, but now it comes in pretty steady.
Yeah. Now, how do you go about getting your guests? How
know,
does that work?
Probably just running into people. So I'm out and about. I keep pretty busy, but
Right.
in really paying attention to what's going on in the community or beyond. Every now and then, I'll say, hey, that's interesting. Do you want to talk about that? And they may come on the show. I am surprised at the stories we have. I just finished this past Monday a 3-part series with a young man. His name is Jarvis Jones. And the interview was so intense and so powerful, I spread it out over 3 shows.
Wow.
And so it just finished, and I tell people, go back if you missed it to hear his story of redemption. So I have a theme each month, and when I originally did his interview, it was the first year, it was in 2015 when I was on the radio, and I thought, well, people may have missed this because now I'm all over the country.
Okay.
And so I wanted to replay that, but the theme that month was finding joy in the journey. And so I had several guests on who had these stories of how they were able to find joy or restore their joy after they had gone through some journey or gone through something. So those interviews people reveal a lot.
Yeah. Now, how does one listen to a podcast? You talking to somebody that still carries a flip-top phone.
First of all, for those of you who need assistance, we're gonna get rid of the flip-top phones. But there are a lot of ways. Like I just discovered, if you have Amazon Fire Stick, for instance, I went on. You can listen to Talking with T on your TV. So the platforms are iTunes, TuneIn Radio, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Google Music, or just go to the website. Now you can do that, can't you?
Yeah.
Go to the website.
Yeah, I can
Okay,
do the
when you
website.
visit www.talkingwitht.com,
Talk to me now.
hit play.
Okay.
That's all you gotta do. Hit play.
I have
and
that
you got-
Google, with mine says Google Music.
Yeah. Well, then you look for Talking with T.
Hot dog.
And hit play. That's it. That's it. I
All
think
right.
you'll enjoy it. We talk about things. So, for instance, this week, I follow the news, and we're happy to say that the boys have been released from the cave. So I've been following that since
Right.
those boys they were missing, and then about 9 days in, they found them in the cave. The cave was flooded. They got 4 boys out, then the rest. So we talk about things like that. We follow so we have segments. So that's trending news.
Right.
But I also like to do a happy highlight. And what I do is intentionally find a piece of good news, because I still like
Oh,
to
come
believe
on
that
now.
good things go
Yes.
on in the world. People are doing good things, but they get overshadowed
Right.
by some of this other mess that draws our attention.
Like I said, right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I do that. I have hometown heroes and tease top teams, just an opportunity to highlight some positive things as well. We have the Crazy Chronicles. Now, enter, all I can say is enter at your own risk.
This is crazy.
But there are some quite hilarious, unconventional things that go on in the news as well. So it's a variety, but pretty much news and accurate. We do cross-reference our stories because I want to make sure that we're pulling things that have been verified and that we don't start rumors or spread any. So we have to
Okay.
be careful about the stories that
Now,
we
do
share.
you visit places locally in town and find some on your own talents and whatever, and and go to them yourself? Or?
Yeah, I do. So as I've gone on, I get invited some places, which is really, really nice. I love poetry.
Okay.
And that whole scene, that whole group, you'll have artists and poets and musicians, and they, kind of all run together. So but I do go out and visit, and I'm always looking. Once you start this, you're always looking and listening for an opportunity to showcase or highlight someone. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And I know you deal a lot with the youth, and I know
That's my main thing.
Yeah, we wanted to see, with all the craziness that's going on in our society today, which is something that we have never seen before. People going into schools, the young people are going into the schools, being bullied, and then they come back with weapons, want to wipe everybody out, including the teachers.
Right.
From my upbringing, totally different than the upbringing of young folks today. What is your view on the young people that are coming up in today's society with all this social media?
So where do we put our disclaimers? Do I need to just say, this is my opinion?
You can say whatever you feel like. This is open dialogue.
I do, so in my day job, the one that pays the bills, I do a lot of research and data analysis. That's what I do.
Right.
And so in taking in the information and looking at trends, in my opinion, as far as the young people, it's a couple of things that play into that.
Okay.
Number one, young people are being raised by young people.
That's it.
And so the older that I become, I've learned some life lessons, and I think differently, I respond differently than I did 10 years ago and 20 years ago. So how I raise my son at this age, which that's not important, but how I raise my son at this age would be very different than how I may have raised him in my 20s or as a teenager. And so I think one of the things is they just haven't lived long enough to be able to pass on those life lessons or that guidance.
Okay.
Right? And so when you have kids raising kids, unfortunately, that's a byproduct. The other thing, I was speaking with someone, and it's like a sore that goes unattended to. It starts off small, right? It starts hurting a little bit, then it may become infected. And I think what we're seeing now is a response to a generational sore through pains of the past, hurt that has passed on and on and on, and now it has festered, and it's infecting our young people. It's infecting their outlook. And when you rob people of hope and aspirations, you never know what you're gonna get, right? When you back somebody into a corner, anybody, they're gonna come out fighting.
That's right.
And so I think we have not done a really good job in teaching our young people how to be angry, because they're going to be angry. There are things that are happening in our society right now that make us all angry, but I know how to deal with it.
Okay.
And if we don't give them those tools, the response, it's what we get now. They don't know how to deal with the pressures of society and the things that seem so unfair to
Right.
them.
And then you've got a lot of parents too that if the children make a mistake or get into trouble or whatever, then they're through with them.
Yeah.
They don't even want to show them tough love and help them and tell them I still love you and
Right.
we're going to work through this. So like you said, it all starts from children raising children. And so they're bringing them up the way that they were brought up. and it moves
Or
on up the
yeah, and it
line.
could be generational, even if
That's
they
right,
may have
right,
been missing that
right.
guidance.
That's
yeah.
right. And so they only know what they
Mm-hmm.
were taught back in
Right.
their days. But I think that's what's happening to a lot of our kids now is love, tough love.
Yeah, I definitely think
We
that's a
don't
part
want
of
to
it.
discipline them, and we don't want nobody else to discipline.
Yeah, I see it all the time.
And then the system has come into
Yeah,
some
so
of that
that's like I
too.
said, that's just part of it. You know, there are some other
right.
things,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, I believe back when I was growing up, I still was on the edge where there was more of a community,
Oh yes.
more of a sense of looking out for each other and blended families
Right.
and so and so at a certain age they were aunt so and so. It didn't matter who it was,
That's
you know,
right.
and so it was different. But I like to believe that people do the best they can
Right.
and the best they know, and so I try not to be too quick to judge.
Okay.
Even though we know that there are these things that are going on that aren't really in the best interest of the kid, you know. I mean, I have my own struggles as a parent, so I know it's no rule book. I know it's not easy. But I think people, they do the best they can or what they know.
But don't you think we need to get those people involved in more activities that's out there to help them?
Oh, definitely.
See, because back in our day, we didn't have these things available.
Well, I have a hashtag that says don't look away. And
So
by
that-
that, I mean when I see somebody that could benefit from some wisdom, some guidance, then I should share that. Now, the thing
That's
is, we
right.
can't go in with arrogance.
That's right.
We can't go in judging people. We go in with sincerity and saying, look, let me put you, let me talk to you for a minute. You know, I have some parents that come in and they're angry, working 3 jobs, the kids acting up at school. So, yeah, they're coming in with an attitude.
And
I
they got feelings.
yeah, and I have to talk to them and say, what is the outcome that you want right now? Because
Okay.
you're not going to get it
That's
this
good.
way.
Okay.
So let's talk about how we
good.
can get to a place where we can get what you want and help you. And like you said, Mr. Minner pouring into me, he didn't have to do that. But more importantly, I had to be ready to receive that. We
To
talked about
receive,
that the other
right.
evening. I'm still willing to learn and listen. And you have people that have had to fend for themselves for so long. They don't realize they need people.
Okay.
You know, they don't find a lot of value in the wisdom of others.
And they won't let you help them sometimes.
Yeah, some won't.
But we still have to love
We
them
have
and try
to
to do
we
the
have to
best that
try.
can.
We have to try to do the best we can. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
With all the programs that are out there now, the grants that different organizations are getting to help our youth out there, are they really taking that money and using it wisely? With all of the different organizations that are getting these grants,
I think they want to.
yeah,
But
You know.
in your personal opinion,
yeah,
Yeah, so
you
let's
think
just,
that-
if you know, we think about art, you know, as an artist, when I paint something, I think it's beautiful. I
Okay.
think it's appealing and all of that. And I put it out there and it costs me whatever and I want to sell it. But to the eyes of the patron is
Okay.
where I've got to figure out what they want and how they're going to receive it. So we have all these great programs, and if we're not appealing to the patrons, to the
Okay.
people that we want to help, then that is just sitting there. And so a lot of these programs, like me, they'll do research and all of that and think they have this great idea, but you got to go to the person and ask them, what do you need? How can I best help you? Sometimes they don't want what we're trying to give them.
right.
And so there
and
are a
everybody's
lot.
not the same.
Everybody's not the
That's
same.
right.
Everybody doesn't have the same intent.
Right.
Okay.
Right? You have to be careful. So I don't want to discount those that are doing some great work. We have some that have been in it for the long haul.
Right.
I think consistency is important and relationships are important. Now, there's a lady, Rita Pearson, she's passed, but she's one that I was a great educator. And she used to do these talks and motivational speeches, but she said no significant learning occurs without relationships. And I believe that you can't just come in and try to build a bridge or lay a foundation without getting to know the people. You know, you come in with your ideas and your background. It's very different than the people that you're trying to support. So you need to build relationships and get to know people. So there are some programs that are very valuable and some that are just pretty. And I'm just going to say that.
Oh, okay, I feel you. I feel you.
We understand.
Okay.
I also would like to let our viewing audience know that Miss Baker has agreed to sign a contract, and be a co-host here on what's going on.
Y'all see that? Y'all gonna be on TV.
Somebody
Somebody call my mama. Somebody call and tell her I'm gonna be
Beginning in
on TV.
August.
I would tell her, Luella, this is your friend and your classmate.
Yes, yes.
We will be looking at Tanisha Fitzgerald Baker
That's
on
right.
television.
Yeah, beginning
Quite
in August.
often.
Beginning
In
in
August.
Yeah, so
We gonna have
And
us
I
a
can
good
take
time.
a little rest.
Yeah.
she's
You can
gonna
take a
be-
rest.
And she's already started trying to book shows. I said, that's what I like. That's what I like.
'Cause we wanna
I
keep
can
Mr.
bring
Minter
it.
around
I
the
We
like-
do. We
I
do.
like the way
That's
she
what he
came
said
in.
back. I said, no, I
Yeah,
just
we
want to
know
work with
he's got
you.
to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's already bringing in a guest. But I'd just like to say thank you for agreeing to come on the show and help us out here.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
You got what we need to keep the show going.
Well, I'm gonna try. I hope so. I
Well,
appreciate
if
the
she's
both of
anything
you.
like her mother. She's got it. She's a worker.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
What's the next level for podcasts?
Well, there are some people that are really having some lucrative careers out of podcasts. And so
Okay.
it's about branding. You can get sponsors just like anything else. It's a very growing platform and outlet for listeners. And people have their favorite ones. There's some podcasters doing quite well.
Yeah.
And so I think the next level is if you think about it, you can listen to what you want when you want. So the difference, when I was on WJBE, Mondays at 1 o'clock, that was the time to listen to the show. Everybody can't listen at 1 o'clock, right? But on a podcast, a new show's coming out on Monday. But I tell people you can listen anytime on your time. If you miss this Monday, some people like to listen back to back,
Okay.
And so I think for podcasts, it's more appealing, and there are all kind of interests. So if you want finance to carpentry, whatever you want to listen to or learn about. See, Mr. Mentor, I'm going to have to get your phone and unflip it, number one, and try to get,
Good luck.
it's even podcasts about doing podcasts. So
Right,
yeah,
right.
before I did want to study the craft and study how the people who were successful with it, what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a growing thing.
Yeah, I noticed that every time I look at, the different newscasts or different TV stations, they will also announce, you can hear me on podcast.
Yeah,
I'll be
or
saying-
running that little bit of stuff down the bottom.
Yeah,
That's
I
right.
can't see
So
that.
we can't see it.
But they say podcast, and I said, you know what? I've heard the podcast. I said, I know
It's
someone who's
just
doing
like the
podcasts.
radio show. Yeah, it's
You know,
just
so
like the
it's-
radio show, but you can listen anytime. And it's
Okay.
internet based. So yeah.
Well, Tanisha, I have enjoyed meeting
Oh,
you.
thank you,
And I
you.
know you're going to do a good job.
And it's not going to be the last time, right?
No,
Because I'm going to need a little hand holding
No,
for a while.
no, I usually feel in when people have to be all
Oh,
for
okay.
something like that.
Okay.
I feel in because he doesn't have to go out and train somebody or something.
Okay,
so,
gotcha.
And,
Well, I'm in training. Y'all hear that?
In emergencies and so forth. No,
Okay.
you'll be taken care of.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
But
Thank you.
I just wanted to
I
welcome
appreciate
you
you.
aboard
Thank you so much.
and take care of my friend.
I need all the help I can
What's
get.
going on? I had to add it. What's going on?
What's going
What's
on?
going on? Okay.
Yeah, but
Now,
thank
he'll
you so
catch
much.
you every now and then.
He will.
He'll catch you off guard.
I have to look out for that.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the
Thank you.
show. And final word you want
Well,
to say
yeah.
to our viewing audience?
Well, the final word is I just want to encourage people to stay engaged and talk about things that matter. Not run from these conversations, but let's have civil conversations. We don't have to agree. But out of respect, we can get to know each other and learn different points of view. And so it's about communicating and acceptance and respect. And I look forward to joining all of you, joining the two of you again. And I'm excited. But thank you so much for having me.
All right, and thank you for coming on What's
Thank
Going
you.
On. And to Miss Jessie Downs, thank you for responding to the call and helping the guy out here on what's going on.
I have to help my friend.
And don't forget, our show comes on now every Wednesday at 5 p.m. And as we always say, if you don't support, we don't exist. We'll see you next time.